Jesus, I didn't know you were this rich God. I beg, show me way. I had no idea that the person assigned to my hostel room would completely change my life. The first day I arrived at the hostel, I was nervous. New school, new people, new environment. My parents had spent almost all their savings helping me get settled. I remember dragging my heavy bags through the crowded hostel corridor while trying not to look lost. That was when I met Zara. She was sitting quietly on the lower bunk bed, reading a book, not scrolling through her phone, not chatting with anyone, just reading. At first glance, she looked like an ordinary student, maybe even poorer than most of us. Little did I know that the quiet girl sitting across from me was hiding a secret worth millions. Living with Zara was strange. Not because she was rude, not because she was difficult. Actually, she was one of the nicest people I had ever met. The strange part was how little she cared about things everyone else cared about. While most students spent hours on social media, Zara spent her free time reading books. While girls in the hostel argued about fashion trends, Zara barely paid attention. While everybody wanted attention, Zara seemed determined to avoid it. The more I watched her, the more curious I became. Who was this girl? As the months passed, one thing became clear. Zara wasn't interested in fitting in. Every weekend, students left campus for parties, restaurants, and expensive hangouts. Social media would be flooded with photos. Everyone wanted to be seen. Everyone wanted to look important. But Zara never joined them. Whenever I invited her, she always smiled politely and said she had other plans. I assumed she couldn't afford it. Looking back now, I laugh at how wrong I was. The reason I thought Zara was poor wasn't just because of her clothes, it was everything. Her phone was old. Her backpack looked worn out. She never bought expensive food. She never talked about family money, and she never showed off anything. One evening, I even saw her carefully counting small amounts of cash on her desk. That moment convinced me she was struggling financially. I felt sorry for her. I had no idea the truth was standing right in front of me. Then came the day everything started to change. One Monday morning, students crowded around the hostel notice board. People were shouting, some were crying, others were calling their parents. The landlord had increased the hostel fees without warning. The amount was so high that many students didn't know how they would pay. Panic spread across the hostel like wildfire. Everyone looked worried, everyone except Zara, and that was the first clue that something wasn't normal. The entire hostel was in chaos. Students were calling their parents. Some were already discussing how they might have to drop out. The increase was simply too much. I stood there staring at the notice board, my heart pounding. My father was a civil servant. My mother sold food by the roadside. We weren't rich, not even close. I didn't know where the money would come from. Then I looked at Zara. She wasn't worried, she wasn't angry, she wasn't even surprised. She stood there calmly reading the notice as if it had nothing to do with her. That was the first time I felt something was strange. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why wasn't Zara worried? Everyone else was panicking. Even students from wealthy families looked concerned. But Zara acted like none of it mattered. Later that night, while pretending to sleep, I noticed something unusual. Zara quietly left the room. It was almost midnight. At first, I ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. A few minutes later, I decided to follow her. What I saw next only deepened the mystery. I followed her all the way to the university library at midnight. Who goes to the library at midnight? I expected her to study. Instead, she walked into one of the private study rooms. A few moments later, I looked through the glass window. My mouth nearly fell open. Zara wasn't studying. She was leading a meeting, and everyone inside looked twice her age. I couldn't hear what they were discussing, but I could tell one thing immediately. Those people respected Zara. No, they answered to her. Every time she spoke, they listened carefully. Every time she gave instructions, they nodded. The quiet roommate I thought was struggling financially suddenly looked like a completely different person. I stood there frozen. Who exactly was Zara? The next morning, I woke up thinking I had imagined everything. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I had misunderstood what I saw. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my friend appeared. Amara, come outside right now. I rushed out of the hostel. Students were gathered everywhere. Some were taking pictures, others were recording videos, and parked directly in front of the hostel was a luxury black SUV worth more than most houses. A uniformed driver stood beside it, waiting. Then the door opened, and Zara stepped out. The entire campus fell silent. Within hours, the entire campus was talking about Zara. Nobody discussed assignments. Nobody discussed exams. Nobody discussed hostel fees anymore. The only topic anyone cared about was Zara. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Some people said her father was a politician, others claimed her family owned oil companies. A few students even insisted she was a princess hiding her identity. Everywhere I went, people were talking about her, and for the first time since I met her, Zara became the center of attention. Ironically, it was the one thing she always seemed to avoid. The strangest thing happened the very next day. Students who had ignored Zara for years suddenly wanted to be her friend. Girls who never greeted her before were now smiling at her. People who mocked her simple clothes suddenly called her bestie. I watched it happen right in front of me, and honestly, it made me uncomfortable because Zara hadn't changed. The only thing that changed was what people thought she owned. Then came the invitations, lunch invitations, birthday invitations, weekend invitations, business proposals. Everybody suddenly wanted Zara's attention. At one point, I counted 7 different students trying to sit beside her during a single lecture. 7, the same people who barely noticed she existed before. But Zara never seemed impressed. She treated everyone exactly the same. A week later, another surprise shook the campus. I was walking back from class when I noticed a crowd near the administrative building. Students were recording videos again. At first, I assumed it was another celebrity visit. Then I saw Zara standing beside one of the university's biggest donors. And what happened next left everyone speechless. The elderly businessman greeted Zara with so much respect that it looked as though she was the important one. That evening, I finally confronted her. We were alone in our hostel room. No crowds, no gossip, no cameras, just me and Zara. For several minutes, I stared at her, trying to figure out how to ask the question. Finally, I gathered the courage. Who are you, Zara? For the first time since I met her. She stopped smiling. The room suddenly felt different, heavier, as if a door I was never supposed to open had just been unlocked. For a few seconds, Zara said nothing. She simply stared at me. Then she closed her laptop and took a deep breath. I knew this day would come eventually, she said quietly. I sat up straighter. My heart was racing. For 2 years, I had lived with this girl. For 2 years, I thought I knew her. And now I was about to discover the truth. What are you hiding? I asked. Zara looked toward the window. Then she smiled sadly. I'm not hiding who I am. She paused. I'm hiding what people become when they find out. Those words stayed with me because deep down, I already knew she was right. The campus had changed overnight. People who ignored her suddenly worshipped her. People who laughed at her suddenly respected her, and all because they thought she had money. That night, Zara told me part of her story. Not all of it, just enough. Her family owned several companies, real companies, the kind that employed hundreds of people, the kind that appeared on television, the kind that made millions every year. I was speechless. Everything suddenly made sense. The expensive SUV, the mysterious meetings, the calm attitude toward money, the respected businessman. But one question still remained. If she was that rich, why pretend to be ordinary? Zara answered before I could even ask. When people know you're rich, she said softly, they stop seeing you. I frowned. What do you mean? She leaned back. They see your money. They see your opportunities. They see what they can gain, but they stop seeing you. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I realized something. Zara wasn't lonely because she was rich. She was lonely because she never knew who truly cared about her. The next morning, things became even more complicated. A girl named Vanessa approached me. Vanessa was one of the most popular students on campus. Beautiful, confident, and known for always getting what she wanted. She smiled at me, but something about the smile felt wrong. You're Zara's roommate, right? I nodded. Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly. Then she asked a question that immediately made me uncomfortable. How much do you actually know about her? At first, I didn't think much about the conversation, but later that day, I saw something strange. Vanessa wasn't just interested in Zara. She was watching her everywhere, in class, on campus, even outside the hostel. The more I paid attention, the more obvious it became. Vanessa wasn't trying to become Zara's friend. She was trying to learn something, and whatever she was searching for, she seemed determined to find it. A few days later, Vanessa finally made her move. It started with a simple rumor. At first, nobody paid attention, but rumors are dangerous, especially when people want them to be true. By lunchtime, students were whispering that Zara's family had become rich through corruption. By evening, the story had changed completely. Now people were claiming her father had stolen money. Nobody knew where the story came from. Nobody had proof. But somehow everyone believed it. And for the first time since the truth about Zara's wealth was revealed, the campus started turning against her. The next morning was worse. Students who once chased Zara for attention now avoided her. People stopped greeting her. Conversations suddenly ended whenever she approached. Even some lecturers seemed uncomfortable. It was amazing. Just 1 week ago, everyone loved her. Now the same people were treating her like a criminal, and nobody even knew whether the rumors were true. That evening, I found Zara sitting alone behind the library. She was staring at the sunset, quiet, thoughtful, almost lonely. For a moment, she looked less like a millionaire and more like an ordinary girl carrying a burden nobody else could see. I sat beside her. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, I asked the question, doesn't this bother you? She smiled, a tired smile. Then she said something I would never forget. The truth doesn't become false just because people stop believing it. Unfortunately, Vanessa wasn't finished. She wanted proof, something she could use against Zara, something powerful enough to destroy her reputation completely. One afternoon, Vanessa secretly followed Zara off campus. She thought she was uncovering a scandal. Instead, she discovered something far more shocking. Vanessa followed the SUV for nearly an hour. The vehicle eventually stopped outside a massive office complex. The building towered above the city skyline. Employees entered and exited through revolving glass doors. Then Vanessa saw something unbelievable. A giant digital screen displayed the company name, and directly beneath it was Zara's family name. Vanessa's jaw dropped. This wasn't a wealthy family, this was an empire. When Vanessa returned to campus, she couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. She had expected to uncover a secret, maybe a scandal, maybe something embarrassing. Instead, she had discovered that Zara's family owned one of the largest companies in the country. The realization obsessed her. For days, she searched for information online. She read old news articles, company reports, interviews, and anything she could find connected to Zara's family. The more she learned, the more frustrated she became. Zara wasn't just rich, she belonged to a family that was respected across the country. Their company funded schools, hospitals, and scholarships. There was no scandal, no corruption, no hidden crime, yet Vanessa refused to let it go. She had spent so much time trying to expose Zara that she couldn't accept being wrong. A few days later, anonymous posts began appearing on social media. At first, they seemed harmless: questions, speculation, rumors. Then the accusations started. People claimed Zara was pretending to be humble to manipulate others. Some accused her of lying about her identity. Others insisted she looked down on ordinary students. Nobody knew who was behind the post, but the comments spread rapidly. Students shared screenshots in group chats. Classmates discussed the rumors during lectures. Within days, the entire campus was talking about Zara again. This time, the attention felt darker, crueler. I watched everything happen from the sidelines. Part of me wanted to believe the rumors would disappear. Instead, they grew larger every day. Some students demanded explanations. Others claimed Zara owed everyone the truth. The same people who had once begged for our friendship suddenly acted as if she had betrayed them. It made no sense to me. Zara had never lied about being poor. She simply never talked about her family's wealth. Yet somehow people treated her silence as a crime. The situation reached a breaking point one Friday afternoon. Zara arrived on campus to find dozens of students gathered outside one of the lecture halls. Phones were raised, cameras were recording. The moment she appeared, questions started flying from every direction. Why did you hide your identity? Why did you pretend to be one of us? What else are you hiding? The crowd grew louder with every second. Some students demanded answers, while others simply wanted drama. I pushed through the crowd, trying to reach Zara. For the first time since I met her, she looked overwhelmed. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of running away, Zara stepped forward. The crowd slowly became quiet. Hundreds of eyes focused on her. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Zara took a deep breath and finally decided to tell the truth. Not about her family's wealth, not about the company, but about the real reason she had chosen to live like an ordinary student. The reason was something nobody in that crowd could have imagined. The crowd waited in complete silence. Even the students holding phones seemed to forget they were recording. Zara looked around slowly before speaking. Most of you think I hid my identity because I was ashamed of who I am, she began. But that's not true. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the emotion behind it. The truth is that when I was younger, nobody treated me like a normal person. The crowd remained silent. Every school I attended knew my family. Every friendship came with questions about money. Every conversation had a hidden purpose. Some people wanted gifts, others wanted connections. Some only stayed around because of my last name. Zara paused. After a while, I stopped knowing who my real friends were. I could see students lowering their eyes. When I got accepted into this university, I made a decision. For the first time in my life, I wanted people to know me before they knew my family. The crowd grew even quieter. I wanted to know what it felt like to be treated normally. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Zara continued, and for a while it worked. Some people ignored me. Some people underestimated me. Some people judged me, but at least their reactions were honest. I felt a lump forming in my throat. Suddenly, all the pieces fit together. Zara hadn't hidden her wealth because she was pretending. She had hidden it because she was searching for something money couldn't buy: genuine friendship, genuine respect, genuine human connection. The next morning, clips of Zara's speech spread across social media. Students who had criticized her started changing their opinions. Many admitted they had judged her unfairly. Some even apologized publicly. But while most people were beginning to understand Zara's decision, Vanessa was furious. Her plan had completely backfired. Instead of destroying Zara's reputation, she had made people respect her even more. For days, Vanessa watched as students praised Zara's honesty. Every compliment only made her angrier. Eventually, she decided that if rumors couldn't hurt Zara, she would try something much worse. She began searching for a way to embarrass Zara publicly. What Vanessa didn't realize was that her obsession was about to create a disaster that would affect far more than just Zara. A week later, the university announced a major entrepreneurship competition. The winning team would receive funding, mentorship, and opportunities to launch a real business. Hundreds of students signed up immediately. As expected, Zara joined the competition. To my surprise, she asked me to be her partner. I nearly fell off my chair. Me, partner with someone who practically ran businesses before graduation. I tried to refuse, but Zara insisted. I trust you, she said. Those three words meant more to me than she could ever know. While other students formed teams based on popularity, Zara chose me. For the first time, I truly understood what our friendship meant. Unfortunately, someone else noticed too: Vanessa. And the moment she saw us working together, she started planning our next move. Over the next few weeks, Zara and I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life. We spent long nights in the library, endless afternoons researching, and entire weekends developing our business idea. For the first time, I stopped seeing Zara as a millionaire and started seeing her as one of the most disciplined people I had ever met. She never relied on her family's money. She never used her connections. She wanted to win through hard work alone. Slowly, our project began attracting attention. Even lecturers praised our progress. But while we focused on the competition, Vanessa was still watching. Her jealousy had grown into something dangerous. The night before the final presentation, disaster struck. When I opened my laptop, our entire project was gone. Every file, every document, every presentation slide. Months of work had vanished. My hands started shaking. I felt sick. I called Zara immediately. Within minutes, she arrived at the study room. I expected her to be angry. Instead, she remained calm. Together, we searched for answers. Then we discovered something shocking. Someone had accessed our project files shortly before they disappeared, and the digital records pointed directly to me. The next morning, the accusation spread across campus. Students whispered that I had sabotaged the project. Some claimed I was jealous of Zara's success. Others said I wanted revenge. I couldn't believe what was happening. Even though Zara never accused me, the rumors hurt. For the first time since we became friends, I wondered if everything was about to fall apart. The competition judges were considering disqualifying our team. Vanessa watched from a distance, convinced her plan had finally worked. But she made one critical mistake. She underestimated Zara. Instead of accepting the evidence, Zara hired independent cybersecurity experts through one of her family contacts. Within hours, they uncovered the truth. The records had been manipulated. Someone had intentionally planted evidence to make me look guilty. The investigation quickly traced everything back to one person, Vanessa. The final presentation day arrived. The university auditorium was packed with students, lecturers, business leaders, and judges. Before the competition began, the organizers addressed the crowd. They revealed the results of the investigation. Gasps filled the room as Vanessa's actions were exposed. Screens displayed the digital evidence proving she had tampered with the files and spread false accusations. Vanessa's confidence disappeared instantly. For months, she had chased Zara's downfall. Instead, she had destroyed her own reputation. The room fell silent as she was escorted out of the auditorium. I expected Zara to celebrate. I expected anger. Instead, Zara simply looked sad. Later, she told me something I would never forget. Jealousy doesn't hurt the person you envy, she said. It hurts the person who carries it. Those words stayed with me long after the competition ended. When our turn came to present, Zara and I gave everything we had. We spoke with confidence, passion, and determination. Every challenge we had faced only made us stronger. By the time we finished, the audience rose to their feet. The applause seemed endless. A few hours later, the results were announced. Our team had won first place. I couldn't stop crying. Zara hugged me as cameras flashed around us, but the biggest surprise came afterward. Instead of keeping the entire prize opportunity for herself, Zara offered me a position in one of her family's startup programs. She wanted me to continue building the business with her after graduation. At that moment, I realized that meeting Zara had changed my life forever. Months later, graduation day finally arrived. As I stood wearing my graduation gown, I thought back to the nervous girl who had walked into that hostel room years earlier. I thought about the rumors, the secrets, the betrayals, and the lessons. Most importantly, I thought about Zara, the girl everyone judged before knowing her, the girl who taught me that wealth does not define character, the girl who showed me that true friendship is built on trust, not status. As we took graduation photos together, I smiled and realized something. Zara had entered my life as a roommate, but she was living it as family. And if there's one lesson this story teaches, it's this: never judge someone based on appearances. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the most extraordinary story of all.